As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. Today, we're going to talk Week 3 machine learning model picks. We'll go over each one of those games like we normally do, whether we agree or not with what the model chooses. And you know how it goes by now. This is Week 3. Things are heating up in the NFL. Things are not easy to predict anymore, and that goes with our question of the day. And the question of the day is going to be, what team is the hardest to predict, not just for sports betting or anything like that, but even fantasy as well. And so there's a couple teams I'm going to go through here. I'll start off with my home team, the Steelers. I have a hard time getting a read on them. We had a fantastic week 1. I thought our defense really showed up, and we played and beat a really good Buffalo Bills team. We've talked about it before that we think the Bills are a fantastic team. We think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. Both Pat and I agree on that. Now, week 1 was much different from week 2. We got beat by the Las Vegas Raiders, who I think are a lesser team than the Buffalo Bills, but the Raiders looked really good, especially their defense. We talked about it on a previous episode where I thought their defense was stout. Shocking how good that defensive line is. And the Steelers offensively just could not get anything going. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, we had an issue as well. We had quite a few injuries. Hayden was out, Bush was out, TJ got hurt midway through the game and had to come out. So that could explain it a little bit. And honestly, if that is going to hurt us, I'm worried for the rest of the season. I mean, it makes sense. Those are three very valuable defensive players. TJ Watt, who again, I think would be up for defensive player of the year, given he's able to stay healthy and come back. But a groin injury, kind of similar to a hamstring injury, those linger throughout the season. So the Steelers are a tough team to read at the moment. I can't tell if we're good, if we're bad, but honestly, it's been like that for a while. Being a Steelers fan, we know we play to our opponent's level. So when we played the Bills, we played up to their level, and we were able to beat them. With the Raiders, I don't like saying this, that we played down to their level because they were a fantastic team, but we underestimate teams. It happens so often. We lost to Washington last year to lose our undefeated season. And I think Washington was a good team coming into that game, but we just overlook them. And that's something the Steelers do very often, is overlook their opponents. So Pat and I talked about it before. We're not super surprised we lost, but it does make it difficult to read the Steelers going forward. Another team that I have a hard time with is the Denver Broncos. And the reason for that is I don't think they've really played anyone too tough. Week 1, they had the Giants that they beat 27-13. And week 2, they played against, I can't remember, they played against Jacksonville. Yeah, so even worse. So they beat them 23-13. No Jerry Jeudy, but Courtland Sutton came in and looked fantastic. So they're another difficult team to read. Now, I think they have a pretty solid defense, that we know, but their offense, the pieces together seem to make a very cohesive unit. But I just have a hard time predicting them. So like this week, they play the Jets, another super easy matchup that they should win, making them 3-0. But they're not a team that we're looking to make playoffs. And it's interesting because they have some easy matchups. Now, I guess let's look at the rest of their schedule, see what they got going on. So this week they got the Jets, then they got the Ravens, much tougher matchup. Then they have the Steelers, should be a tougher matchup. Raiders looking great defensively. Browns, tougher matchup. Football team, that should be a good one. They might be able to beat them. Cowboys, they need to decide what they want to be. Eagles, probably an easier matchup. Chargers, they would most likely lose. Chiefs, Lions, Bengals, Raiders again, because, divisions, Chargers again, Chiefs again. So the Broncos are in a tough division, but everyone else they play outside of their division is not terrible. I mean, the Ravens and the Steelers and the Browns are probably 3 losses there, but everyone else, it's just um, not that scary. So I think they have a pretty easy schedule and they're looking good. But again, it might be just because they haven't played anyone too scary yet. The final team that I'm going to bring up here, and I seem to bring them up a lot, but the New Orleans Saints. They're difficult to predict as well. Now, I know in our very first episode, I placed a bet that I don't think they make playoffs. Week 1, they come out and demolish the Green Bay Packers. And then week 2, they come out and get demolished by the Carolina Panthers. And it makes it really difficult to read because Jameis looked great week 1. He was super efficient, not that many yards, but he threw, 5 touchdowns, I believe, week 1? It was just something ridiculous where no one could have really saw it coming other than the model. The model predicted that. But Jameis looked great week 1, and I don't know what changed in week 2 against the Panthers. The Panthers defense is pretty good, but the New Orleans Saints defense disappeared. Maybe that was because Lattimore is injured, but they're another tough team that I have a hard time betting on now going forward. Before it wasn't too difficult, but they're very difficult to read. So 3 teams that are difficult: Steelers, Broncos, Saints. So let's get into these matchups now with these predictions. So Thursday Night Football, we have the Carolina Panthers versus the Houston Texans. Carolina is 8-point away favorites, and we have a lower over-under of 43 points. So Panthers look to be very big favorites, as they probably should be, a minus 400 for the money line. So I personally, even though I believe they'll win, will not be betting that. Risk is not worth the reward. You have to bet 400 to win 100. That's not worth it. Injuries, not so much on the Carolina side, but on the Texans side, they lost their quarterback. Tyrod Taylor is now on IR with his hamstring. And they also lose Nico Collins to the IR for a shoulder injury. So it's going to be the rookie Mills starting up. And I will not be betting on Mills to do very much. We just said Carolina defense is very solid. So Vegas has an implied point total of 17.5 points for Houston and 25.5 for Carolina, which is implying, that's how it works. You take the spread to calculate it. So yeah, there's 8 points between them. So let's take a look at the model. The model is, oh my, yes. So like we said, the model does not know about injuries. So because of that, the model is taking the Houston Texans to win this game, 24 to 21.9. Yikes. I will be very surprised if that happens, but maybe crazier things have happened this season so far. But this would be a wild one. I would 100% not touch that. Even though it's pretty good money, plus 320 if the Texans win. I don't got the plums to do that. Now, of course, because it's taking Houston to win, the underdog, it's going to take Houston plus 7.5. And it is also predicting an over for 43.5. The Yahoo has it as 43, but where we placed our bets had it at 43.5. So model predicting Houston to win, Houston plus 7.5. Since they're the underdogs, of course, they're going to take the spread. And it is also predicting the over 43.5. Well, that's what it was when we made these bets. Yahoo currently has it at 43. So either way, predicting the over, predicting about 46 points. Pat and I think the opposite. Like we said, we're not going to bet on Houston to win. Houston 7.5. I would not take that bet either. I probably won't touch the spread in this one, but Pat and I both agree that we think it's going to be under 43.5. I don't see a lot of scoring in this game other than the Carolina Panthers. Now, like we said, Mills is going to be the quarterback for Houston, and he did not look great last week. So I would not bet on him to move the ball very much, which is a shame because Brandon Cooks looked fantastic. Mark Ingram looked, okay, but I think Cooks is a shame to to lose Tyrod there because he was getting hammered with targets and catching all of them. All right, so that's going to do it for Thursday Night Football. Models taking Texans plus 7.5 and over 43.5 points for the total. All right, next game we got here is the Washington football team 1-1 against the 1-1 Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 9-point home favorites with an over-under of 45.5 points. Now, the Bills are massive moneyline favorites at minus 450, which is even larger than Carolina was, and the Washington football team at plus 350. Injuries, let's see what we got here. Ryan Fitzpatrick, of course, still on IR. Curtis Samuel also on IR. Bills, they're good. They're pretty healthy. Josh Allen's good to go. Devin Singletary's looking great at running back. Even Zach Moss got in there and got a couple touchdowns last week. Stephon Diggs doing Stephon Diggs things. So not much to worry there. So with this spread, we have an implied point total of 27.25 for Buffalo and 18.25 for Washington. And that makes sense. Heineke did not look great, even though they won that game. They were very fortunate to win that game. So he didn't look terrible, but he also did not look great. Hopefully Gibson can get some more work here, but I think that's going to be a tough thing against Buffalo's front line. So a lot of the money here is, of course, going to be on the Buffalo side. Now, going to the model agrees with this. These lines, they have the Bills winning over 45.5 points and Buffalo -9. Now that's a pretty decent spread. Washington is going to have to probably throw to stay in this game, even with a low over-under. If for fantasy-wise, Terry McLaurin's probably, I mean, you're not sitting Terry McLaurin, but Taylor Heineke peppers him with targets, and that's what we were worried about when Fitzpatrick went down, but that did not seem to matter at all. My worry, however, comes with Antonio Gibson. It's such a shame that McKissick's so good at pass catching and everything because it is overshadowing Antonio Gibson. He is averaging 4.8 yards per carry, which is great, but no touchdowns. McKissick seems to be taking all of those away from him. I agree, Buffalo's going to win, but we're not going to take a bet at minus 450 odds. The payoff's just not worth it. However, I probably think I can see this hitting the over pretty good. Spread is a little tougher with the -9. I can see Washington still has a fantastic defense that might be able to keep them in it. So I lean towards Washington +9. But TBD, keep updated on our website and my Action Network to see what I end up choosing. But I am currently leaning towards Washington +9. Next matchup, we have the 1-1 Chicago Bears against the 1-1 Cleveland Browns. Cleveland is 7-point home favorites with a total over-under of 46 points. Cleveland currently -300 favorites for the money line. Chicago +250. Now, with that gives an implied score of Cleveland 26.5 against Chicago's 19.5. So not terribly high scoring, but they do expect Cleveland to score quite a bit here. Looking at the injuries, the biggest one here is on the Cleveland side. They lose Jarvis Landry. He's now on IR with an MCL sprain, I believe it was, which means who are they throwing it to? Does OBJ come back this week? This is a perfect time to bring this up. So we have a good friend who is in sports physical therapy. He's going to be our injury expert. And we're going to be doing some shorter segments with him, kind of like the Prop Talk ones, just like 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to talk injuries, the extent of them, if we expect guys to play. We'll be recording that Friday after final injury reports come out and expect it to release on Saturday. So that'll be fantastic to get some, expert knowledge on these injuries. So it doesn't list Andy Dalton here as injured. I don't know why he's not on the injury report currently, but as we know, Andy Dalton did not finish the game last week. They brought in Justin Fields, and the rookie did not look great. I know a lot of people expect decent things from him. I'm honestly not one of them. I might have a little bit of bias here, being from Penn State and he's an Ohio State quarterback, but for no one coming out of that Ohio State program that's a quarterback does well in the NFL. I don't know what it is about that scheme. I've blamed it on Urban before, and you can see what's going on with Trevor Lawrence at the moment. I think it's quite telling. So Justin Fields, I believe, is expected to start, even though it does not say that here on Yahoo's injury report. And if he does, I think this is going to be a tough game for the Bears. The Cleveland Browns have a solid defense. Now, they make mistakes from time to time, but offensively and defensively, they're not terrible. Even losing Jarvis, they're going to be able to adjust. Baker was out of the game for a couple snaps, maybe a drive with a stinger, but he came back. And he honestly didn't have to do much work because Nick Chubb was there to do all the cleanup. And that's where the scoring, I believe, is still going to come. Their run game is, I honestly might say they might have the best run game in the league at the moment. Which I'm not saying Nick Chubb is the best running back in the league. I'm saying their scheme and the 1-2 punch of Chubb and Hunt, that is difficult to beat. You, of course, have Christian McCaffrey, probably the best running back in the league. But Chuba Hubbard, they don't have that 1-2 punch that Chubb and Hunt do. And I think if you put the two together, this, doing some stupid football math, which isn't real, Chubb, Hunt greater than McCaffrey, Hubbard. I believe that's just kind of how it is. Anyways, let's get into the model here. We have the model taking the Browns to win, but not to cover. It has Chicago +7, and they are taking the over 46.5 points, currently 46 on Yahoo. But like I said, when we made these bets, it was 46.5. Either way, taking the over. Now for me, I don't know. I definitely agree Browns win. That should be a win for them. The Chicago +7, that's a tough one because if Fields is playing, he did not look great, but he'll get a full week of practice in to get him comfortable. First game starting for a rookie, that's always tough. That's tough for anyone. So I think scoring is going to be difficult. Montgomery's looked good. Mooney's looked good. Allen Robinson hasn't completely shown up, but who knows? Let's see what happens there. I think Cleveland might be able to cover this game mostly because they just eat up time. They really do with that run game, and I cannot give enough praise to it. And if they get ahead, expect them to run the ball nonstop and run that clock out and not give Fields much to work with. Also, the Browns' defensive line is scary. If you have these guys, you have Myles Garrett coming at you as a rookie, good luck. That's tough for people who have been in the league for multiple years. And for a rookie, it's going to be a tough matchup for him when he gets his first start. So I personally lean Browns covering -7 and the over-under. That I believe I would take the under. 46.5. I think most of the scoring is going to go Cleveland's way, and Cleveland's defense should be able to shut down Fields. All right, next matchup here, we got the Baltimore Ravens 1-1 against the 0-2 Detroit Lions. Baltimore is 7.5-point away favorites with an over-under of 50 points. So that gives 21.25 to Detroit and 28.75 to Baltimore. A little surprised this line isn't closer, but I mean, Detroit did come back against San Francisco and really did put up a fight. Not so much against Green Bay. Like Green Bay was pissed. They went out and tore them up, even though it was back and forth for quite a bit. Second half came down and they just put their foot on the gas and did not let up. Injuries, we know the Baltimore running backs are banged up. Gus is out, but now they have a good mix going they got Latavius Murray, who seems to be getting quite a bit of the carries. Tyson Williams also in there. We even saw a little bit of Devonta Freeman, which was a little shocking, which really all that says to me is that Le'Veon Bell is not in football shape if he is not on that starting squad. So a little interesting there. But the run game is Lamar Jackson, and he does it quite well. Other side of the ball, it shows a picture of T.J. Hawkinson, and he looks like a caveman at the moment with his hair. So, anyways, other than that, T.J. Hawkinson and Jared Goff have made a fantastic connection. I really like T.J. Hawkinson for this matchup. You're probably not sitting him to begin with, as he's a top 5 tight end, even against a solid Baltimore defense. There's like no one else to throw to there. Hawkinson is great. He has 16 receptions in 2 games, averaging 10.2 per catch. Only 2 touchdowns, but touchdown game. That's really all you need from a tight end, and he's an upper echelon guy. And Goff has not looked terrible. Honestly, during the first half of the game against Green Bay, I'm like, holy crap, they are staying in this. This is really impressive. And then, like I said, Green Bay came out and turned on their offense, but he really just doesn't have the weapons that a lot of other teams do. It's Hawkinson. Swift looks good. Jamal Williams has looked good. But I think Cephas even looked okay. It's really the touchdown that kept him valuable there. But Goff has not been terrible. So moving on to the model. The model has Baltimore winning. However, they are giving Detroit to cover. So Detroit +8. Currently, the spread on Yahoo is 7.5. Bovada had it at 8, so that's what we took. We took Detroit +8 for the model, and it is projecting over. So over that 50 points, we got it in at 49.5. Doesn't matter. Even at 50, the model is taking the over with a projected total of 53 points. I agree. Ravens win. I agree with the over-under. That is a tough one. Does Detroit score those 21.25 points that it is expecting? What did they get against Green Bay? Let's take a look really quick. Like, they ended up with 17. They ended up 17 points against Green Bay, and I think Baltimore's defense is quite a bit better than Green Bay's, so that is a tough one for them to get to. I'm leaning towards the under for this one. Again, keep an eye on my action. I usually don't take my bets until closer to the closing lines, but at the moment, I'm leaning towards the under of 50 or 49.5, depending on where you get your odds. All right, moving on, we have the Indianapolis Colts against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are 5.5-point home favorites with a total over-under of 48 points. For the money line, Tennessee is -250, Colts +200. Yahoo has a nice little tidbit here. The Colts are 8-1 against the Titans on the road over their last 9 games. So, fun fact there. I think that's about all it is a fun fact. I would not take much from that. I don't want to say it's a much different team, but they are not healthy. And talking about being not healthy, Tennessee seems to be fine. The Colts, again, I don't know why they aren't having these quarterbacks here on these injury reports. But either way, we know Carson Wentz sprained both of his ankles last week, and that's a problem. He injured both of them on the same exact play. If Carson Wentz is not starting, I don't know who is. Let's find out real quick. Oh, Eason. No, that is not what you want. And I'll tell you right now, if he is the starting quarterback, I think I'm going to take all of these bets for the Titans. Besides the money line, -250, that's not enough for me. But I would take this point spread of -5.5, and I would take over under 48. Let's see. So that's an implied point total of 26.75 for Tennessee, 21.25 for the Colts. No Carson Wentz. I'm going to take the under if Carson Wentz isn't playing. Now, let's see how the model thinks. And something I've noticed from the model these past 2 weeks is it really likes the Colts. But again, this is all based on historical data. It's continuing to learn, but that's a reason why it was favoring the Colts in so many of these games. Now, this is the first game it does not have the Colts winning. It has the Tennessee Titans winning the game. It has over 48 points. Like I said, I'm leaning towards the under if Carson is not good to go. I don't think he's the best quarterback, but Eason is a whole other level of not able to score points. Model is taking the over, and it's taking Indy plus 5.5. So it thinks it's going to be a closer game. I'm not of that mindset, and I'm going to keep saying it. If Wentz isn't out, if Wentz is out, this should be a great game for Tennessee. All right, next we have a AFC West matchup. We have the 1-1 Chargers against the 1-1 Kansas City Chiefs. Wow, that is so crazy. Kansas City is third currently in the AFC West, Chargers in fourth. Did not see that coming, but hey, it's early. It's only week 3. So the Kansas City Chiefs are 6.5-point home favorites. All of the money is on them for the money line, minus 300, giving the Chargers a plus 240 money line. I think this is the highest over-under of the... It is tied with a few other games. So 55.5 for the over-under. That gives implied point totals of 31 for Kansas City, 24.5 for the Chargers. Looking at injuries, everyone seems to be good. Everyone seems to be okay. Chargers have a few IR injuries, but nothing really worth talking about here. So I completely agree. This game should be a shootout, and you're going to want your fantasy pieces in this one. So expect me to be targeting this game for DFS. You have Justin Herbert, who's getting 337.5 yards per game, 2 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. So that interception number needs to come down. But on the flip side, you have Patrick Mahomes getting 340 passing yards a game, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. So again, this is going to be a fantastic shootout. Austin Eckler's in this. Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably straying away from him. Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, and then of course Travis Kelce. He's just a monster, and I'm so happy to have him on quite a few of my teams. We have a big money league team, Neil and I, and we have we never get this, but we have a Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce stack, and in this league, tight ends get 1.5 per reception. So just anytime he gets the ball, it is fantastic. I'm a happy man anytime that happens. So looking at the model has Kansas City winning. I probably agree there. I mean, I think most people would agree there. But the model is taking the under 55.5. I'm completely okay with that. Like I said, I think this will be a shootout. I think they'll get near that number, but it was also supposed to be a shootout against the Chargers and the Cowboys last week, and that didn't really happen. So I'm absolutely fine taking that under. I might stray away from this just because I'm just going to enjoy it fantasy-wise, and maybe I don't want to put any more money in it. But the model also thinks it's going to be a close one. It's taking the Chargers to cover that 6.5 point spread. I don't really mind that either. It seems like all of Kansas City's games currently have been pretty close. They were close against Baltimore. They lost by a point. And then in week 1, they won by 4 points. So I'm completely fine with that as well. Again, personally, probably not taking it. I just want to enjoy this one. I just want to watch and see Travis Kelce put up some fantasy points. But I'm more than okay with the under. I'm more than okay with the spread. And then Kansas City to win. Not one I would take. Juice is just a bit too much for my liking, but I am excited for that game. Next on the slate, we got the 1-1 New Orleans Saints against the 1-1 New England Patriots. The Patriots are 3-point home favorites with, I believe this is the lowest over-under. Nope, it is tied with the Broncos Jets. So 41.5 for the over-under. New England minus 155 for the money line. Saints at plus 130. Oh man, this is interesting. So according to Yahoo, 71% of the bets are on New England for the money line, but 64% of the money is on New Orleans. And I think that's fair. If I was going to take a money line, the Saints aren't a bad play. It's tough to play in Gillette Stadium. It's tough against to play Bill Belichick. And it's tough to determine what the Saints are. I talked about that at the top of the show. But plus 130 for Kamara. Well, Bill Belichick's good at that. He's good at taking away the guy who's going to score for your team, and that is Alvin Kamara. So that's a scary one. Definitely nobody is sitting Kamara, but I would be worried for him in this matchup. New England's defense is good. Belichick is obviously a fantastic coach. He takes away your top scorer. So just, temper expectations. Also, 68% of the money on New Orleans plus 3, and heavy money on the over 41.5. 80% of bets on the over, 71% of the money on the over. So with these odds, it gives an implied point total of 22.25 for New England, 19.25 for the Saints. Now, check out the injuries. Nothing new to talk about here. So why isn't Lattimore on here? So again, we're going to talk about these injuries a bit more later in the week, and they'll be more up to date. So the injuries I'm talking about now, you can kind of just ignore, honestly, until we get to the injury show where we'll go into more detail about them and be more up to date because we'll have the final injury reports before then. So Jameis is here, very low passing yards per game, 129.5 yards per game, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Did not throw a touchdown last week. All 5 of those came against Green Bay. Mac Jones only has 1 touchdown, but he has 233.5 yards per game. So it seems like New England's kind of becoming a rushing team, and that's interesting. I think James White was like a top 5 running back this past week, which was annoying, especially when I just traded for Damian Harris. So that's on me. So Damian Harris has a 4.2 yards per carry, only 1 touchdown. But hey, that's better than Alvin Kamara at the moment, who has 0 touchdowns, 3.1 per carry. Yikes. So yeah, it's just the weapons are not showing up, and it's sad, and it's hard to predict what the Saints are. So this might be, I really like the New Orleans Saints money line just for the value. Oh man, that's a rough one. The smart bet is to not bet on this one. It's too close. Personally, I think to call. I can see either side of this coin, but hey, let's see what the model picks. And the model thinks the Saints are going to win quite a bit. They have them winning by roughly 10 points. So they're taking the Saints money line. They're taking the over 41.5. They're predicting 51 points. And they, of course, if you're taking the underdog to win, you're taking the underdog point spread. So New Orleans plus 3. Again, personally, this is a tougher one for me to take a bet on just because of I can see this going either direction easily. All right, next we got a matchup of 2 winless teams. We have the 0-2 Atlanta Falcons against the 0-2 New York Giants. The Giants are currently 3-point home favorites with an over-under of 48 points. Giants money line minus 160, Atlanta Falcons plus 135. This is giving us an implied point total of 25.5 for the Giants, 22.5 for the Falcons. Now, what happens in this game? Neither team has looked great. Giants looked like they should have won against Washington, but mistakes were made. It cost them the game. It's funny here that they have Daniel Jones for the pass yards, obviously because he's a quarterback, but he's also their running back. He has the most rush yards. He has 15 rushes for 8.1 a carry and 2 touchdowns, which is absurd. We're still just waiting for Barkley to be unleashed. They seem to be taking their time, which completely fair, completely fair. Coming off that ACL injury, it takes a little bit for these guys to get going again. Hopefully it's sometime soon where they set them, they let him go because they are losing these games without him being at full strength. The other side of the ball, the Atlanta Falcons run game isn't great either, unless you're Cordero Patterson, which is, again, super absurd because Mike Davis is technically the starter, but he hasn't looked good. He seems to just get tackled easily. It's like the wind blows him over. And Cordero Patterson is just getting work. And like I said, it's annoying. Ridley had a decent game last week, but really didn't do much week 1 against the Eagles. This will be an interesting one, but hey, one of these teams is going to get a win, and the model thinks it's going to be the Falcons. The model has the Falcons winning. They expect the under. They are expecting 42 total points, so that's under the 48. And because they're taking the underdog, you're going to take Atlanta +3 as well. I'm fine with all of that. I think that's all completely okay to take a shot on. The Giants just have not been able to stay in a game. I know they were close with Washington, which was impressive because Washington has a fantastic defense, but they can't finish, which is a problem in a few ways. But we won't censor. That's fine. But yeah, the Giants have been unable to finish. The Falcons have not looked fantastic. I don't even remember who they played against last week. They played because it's just unmemorable watching them play. But they played against Tampa Bay. Yeah, so they got pooped on by Tampa Bay. They weren't going to win that game no matter what. That absolutely makes sense. They got blown out 25-48. Man, I like Atlanta on the offensive side of the ball. Matt Ryan needs to pick it up, but I really like Calvin Ridley. I really like Kyle Pitts. Gage should do better. He didn't get anything. I think he put up a 0. I know that because I played him week 1, and that was terrible. Week 2, let's see what he did. I don't think he did very much there either. He got 5 receptions for 28 yards. So he got the reception. So playing in PPR, that's okay. But who else got 5 receptions is Cordero Patterson for 58 yards and a touchdown. It's not right what's going on there. If you want to take a shot on Patterson for DFS, his salary probably has come up just because of all the work he's doing. I wonder if he's more than Davis. That's something we'll find out later when I do the DFS episode with the fantasy stuff. But he's worth a shot. He's worth a shot. So again, I don't know if I'll be taking a bet on any of these. This one, again, is a little too close for me. If anything, I like the money line just because of the plus odds there, plus 135. That's fine. I think you toss a coin, see what happens with this game. Go with your gut. Go with your gut. I think that's fine here. And that's probably horrible betting advice to go with your gut. But even the stats are pretty much saying that. Vegas is even saying that. Like 3 points is nothing, even though there's a 1-point spread with one of these people. Tampa Bay and the Rams. That should be another good one. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So model, taking the Falcons +3, under 48 points. Now, all right, next up we got the AFC North matchup. How the hell I'm just so surprised Pittsburgh is first in the AFC North. That is surprising to me. But there's all those tiebreakers in there. That's what's going on. So Cincinnati 1-1, Pittsburgh 1-1. AFC North matchup. Pittsburgh is 4.5 home favorites with a lower over/under of 44 points. Pittsburgh money line at -200. Cincinnati at +170. Fancy little tidbit here: Steelers are 5-1 against the Bengals over the last 3 seasons. I don't think that surprises anyone. Implied point totals 24.25 for Pittsburgh, 19.75 for the Bengals. Now, injuries. Again, these aren't great. These aren't the final injury reports, but I know Watt was injured. I will have to wait and see if Hayden comes back, if Bush comes back. Ben hurt his pectoral as well, so we're going to have to keep an eye on him. On the Bengals side of the ball, nothing really new to report. So I said it before. I'll say it again. Steelers are a tough one to figure out. I don't know if they're good. I don't know if they're bad. However, I do know we beat the Bengals. We're 5-1 in the last 3 seasons against them. So that this is one I'm okay with. The spread -4.5. I believe we got it at something else. We got it at -3.5. It's currently -4.5. Completely okay with that. I think I would take the over 44 points here, especially if our defense is not fully healthy. That will allow Joe Burrow and the boys to score. Joe Mixon is probably a fantastic play if Watt is out. That defensive line's banged up. So Joe Mixon should be good to go. Deontay Johnson, they don't have him here as injured, but he hurt his knee on the final play of the game as well. So again, stay tuned. We'll talk about that in the injury podcast. So going to the model has the Steelers winning. Good job, model. It is taking the over 44 points. We got it at 43.5, and it is taking Pittsburgh -3.5. Would it also take 4.5? It would. Yeah. So either way, if you get it at 3.5 or 4.5, the model agrees with taking the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover. And I am absolutely okay with that. So Pat and I believe we agree. We're leaning towards the under for this game. The model barely has it over. The model has 45 points being scored, and it's a 44 point over under. So easily can see the under being hit here. More so if most of our defense is healthy, they'll shut down the Bengals, I think, pretty good. And then the Steelers we haven't been able to score. We haven't gotten a lot of points in our past 2 games. 26, or I'm sorry, Raiders got 26. We got 17, and then we only got 23 against the Bills. So I can see this not being a high-scoring affair, but I still think Pittsburgh's going to cover. That's a bet I'm okay with taking. Next matchup, we got the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals, and they're only 3rd in the NFC West. That's a little surprising, but I guess everyone else is 2-0 as well, against the 0-win Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Cardinals are 7.5 point away favorites with an over-under of 52 points. -350 money line for the Cardinals, not touching that. And a +275 money line for the Jaguars, giving an implied point total of 22.25 for Jacksonville, 29.75 for the Arizona Cardinals. If I'm taking, I would, even with the Cardinals over under for total points that they score, give me that. Give me the over for that, because they are just putting up points every single week. For week 1, 38 points. Week 2, 34 points. So they are a high-powered, fast offense, and they are awesome to watch. Having Kyler Murray on a team is fantastic. And it looks like Rondale Moore, the rookie, even, I won't call it a breakout, but he had a great game last week against the Vikings. So again, maybe someone to pick up off your waivers if he has not already been picked up. Worth a look. So this is a pretty cut and dry. I think the Cardinals to win by the model, easy, yeah. However, I completely disagree that the model is taking the under 52 points. I mean, they've been putting up at least 30 a game. Jacksonville doesn't have to score that much. Oh, man, that's a shame. I lean towards the over for this game, and Pat does as well. So that's a bet we're going to take, is the over 52, And we also think Arizona's going to cover that 7.5-point spread. So those are the bets we're going to take. Model, however, is taking Arizona to win. It's taking the under, and they're taking Jacksonville to cover. So don't agree too much here, but model has no feelings about any of this. It's all numbers. So we're letting it do its thing. That one's up for discussion. We think the opposite for the over-under and the spread. Next game we got here, we have the tale of two cities. We have the 0-2 New York Jets and the 2-0 Denver Broncos. I talked about them being difficult to predict, but they should easily get a win here. And Vegas agrees with me. The Broncos have a -600 money line, Jets +425. So even though I definitely agree that the Broncos will win this game, you don't take this bet. It's not, you get like nothing out of it. So don't do that, please. Because if they lose, you're going to be hurting. So Broncos 10.5-point home favorites. This is again tied with the lowest over/under at 41.5 points, giving an implied point total of 26 for Denver, 15.5 for the Jets. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. Teddy Bridgewater looked good. Melvin Gordon looked good. Sutton looked fantastic. No touchdowns, but he got a poop ton of yards, and I wouldn't expect anything less during this game. So really what this means, start your Broncos. Teddy might be a solid pick for DFS. He's probably on the cheap, and he should go to work. He has, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, so he's been good. And like Neil said, bet against the Jets. That is a fantastic philosophy and an easy one to do. Little tidbit that Yahoo has: Broncos are 4-1 against the Jets over their last 5 games. Again, I don't take too much into these little things, just some fun facts. The model has Broncos winning. Yep, easy. They have the under 41.5. So even though this is low, I tend to agree because I don't think the Jets are scoring that much against this Denver defense. So yeah, I lean towards the under as well. I believe Pat does as well. Let me make sure. Yep, we are both taking the under 41.5. That's a good bet, we believe. However, the model does have the Jets covering the 10.5-point spread. And again, I'm okay with that. That's a lot of points. I'm not going to take it because I'll bet on the Jets, but that's absolutely okay. That's a lot of points, and these are professional football players. So the recap: model's taking the Broncos to win, under 41, and Jets to cover the 10.5-point spread. All right, we got 5 games left. 1-1 Miami Dolphins against the 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders. Miami is 4-point underdogs, meaning the Raiders are 4-point home favorites. They have an over-under of 45.5 points. Raiders money line at -190. Dolphins at +160. Implied point total 24.75 for Las Vegas, 20.75 for Miami. This is one I'm surprised is so close. I thought we've seen enough from the Raiders to know that they're a solid team. Their defense is great. Tua got injured last week. So if he's not starting, we saw them fall apart. They didn't score any points against Buffalo. It was 35-0. Tua got hurt pretty early. Yeah, he only had 1 completion, 1 of 4 for 13 yards. Jacoby Brissett came in, passed 40 balls, only completed just barely half of them with 24 for only 169 yards and an interception. No touchdowns. The Miami looked awful. They without Tua, their entire team just went down. Jacoby was sacked 4 times. Gaskin, they pretty much split across the board for their running backs. Gaskin with 5 carries, Brown with 5 carries, Ahmed with 6 carries, Brissett had 4 carries. And the highest was Gaskin with 25 yards, Brown with 21, Ahmed with 17, Brissett with 8. So I don't know how they score here if Tua isn't playing, and this is not saying Tua is a great quarterback because I I don't believe he is, but he's definitely a key piece of this team, and that's a tough one for Miami to overcome. So I am going to be taking the Raiders -4 here. I think they cover this spread pretty easily. Money line, it's a little closer. -190's okay, I guess, as far as money line goes. Over under. The over has hit the Las Vegas Raiders the last 6 games against the Miami Dolphins. That's interesting. I don't know if I care. The Raiders, if they can score on the Steelers defense, but again, they were banged up. Raiders got 26 points, and then they got 33 against the Ravens, who are also a great defense. That's tough. I think I lean the under just because I don't think Miami's scoring that many points with Jacoby under center. So that's one I'm going to keep an eye on. So that one depends on the quarterback situation for me. Again, pay attention to our injury podcast. So the model is taking the Raiders to win. Good job, model. It is taking the over 45, but it is taking Miami to cover. So like I said, I do not agree with that. I'm going to take the Raiders -4 personally. Now this one. This is going to be an awesome game. You have the undefeated Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the undefeated Los Angeles Rams. Rams are 1-point home underdogs, meaning Tampa Bay is -1 point favorites. This has a massive over-under, 55.5 points, which is it is tied for the highest with the Vikings-Seattle game, which we will get to. Interesting. Okay, so Rams 4-1 against the Buccaneers over their last 5. This gives implied point totals of 27.25 for the Rams, 28.25 for the Bucs. This is going to be a fantastic game, and oh man, I don't even know if I want to bet on it because it's just going to be fun to watch. But either way, Stafford has looked fantastic. 299.5 passing yards per game, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Brady has looked fantastic. 327.5 passing yards per game, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Henderson got a little banged up in the last game. Again, I got to keep saying it. Pay attention to our injury podcast. We'll cover this in deeper detail. Henderson and Fournette both getting 4.2 yards per carry. Henderson has 2 touchdowns. Fournette does not have any rushing touchdowns. Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp. It's Cooper Kupp's team. Cooper Kupp is the passing game for the Rams. I don't really expect anything less out of this game. But Tampa Bay's a tough defense, but they also let Dallas throw all over them. So maybe Stafford spreads the ball out a bit more here, but it's going to be a high-scoring affair. This is another target for my DFS lineups. All right, going to the model. The model has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning. It is taking the under 55.5 points, and it has Tampa Bay covering the 1-point spread. We got it at -1.5, but either way, the model is going to be taking the Tampa Bay to cover there. All right, next up, we have an NFC matchup. The 1-1 Seattle Seahawks take on the 0-2 Minnesota Vikings. Both teams lost by a squeaker, so very close games in week 2. The Seahawks are currently -2 away favorites. Again, we just said it. This is tied for the highest over-under at 55.5 points. Seattle Seahawks at -125 for the money line. Minnesota at +105. This should be another good game. Russ has looked good. Lockett has looked amazing. Dalvin, he's Dalvin Cook. Kirk has also looked good. He has 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Russ has 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah, this should be a shootout because I don't think either defense is that scary. So, get your guys in this game for your lineup. Get these guys in your game for your DFS lineups too. You target these high scoring games. So with the line, that's giving implied points of 26.75 for Minnesota, 28.75 for Seattle. The model has Seattle winning. They're taking the over just barely. They expect 56 points, but technically that is over 55.5. So they're going to take the over. So Seattle to win, Minnesota still to cover with that +2. So that's awesome. That's good news for fantasy. Those are back and forth games that are expected. And that's a word I want to really emphasize on is expected. Anything can happen in these NFL games. This could be a stinker. It could score 30 total points. We don't know. But, we play the probability game with betting. We play the probability game with fantasy. And that's exactly what we're doing here with the model. Okay, only the primetime games left for Sunday Night Football. We have another awesome matchup. A lot of good matchups this week. We have the Green Bay Packers 1-1 against the San Francisco, who is currently undefeated at 2-0. San Francisco is 3.5 point home favorites with a total point over under of 48.5. Money line -175 for the 49ers, +150 for Green Bay. Giving an implied point total of 26 points for San Francisco, 22.5 for Green Bay. This is one I'm going to take a lot of bets on. I'm going to be betting on, and Pat agrees, Green Bay to win, which means we're taking Green Bay points +3.5. I'm also pretty okay with this over 48.5 points. Green Bay, again, they went off. It was Detroit, so, maybe we can throw that one out the window, but I think Green Bay is back to their normal selves after that humiliating loss against the Saints. And I also think San Francisco is able to put up points. They've looked good. So I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the Green Bay points and Green Bay to win. So that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good one to watch. Should be relatively close. But I'm going to take the Packers. I'm betting on Rodgers. I think it's their season. I really do. But who cares what I think? Let's see what the model thinks. The model is taking the Packers as well. They're taking the over. We actually got in for the over at 49.5. So obviously we would take the over at 48.5. And of course, Green Bay +3.5 to cover. And for our final game, Monday Night Football, we have an NFC East matchup. Both 1-1 teams, the Philadelphia Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are -4 point home favorites, 51.5 point over under. Pat and I are both going to take Dallas -4. I didn't bring it up, but I think Philadelphia might be another team that's a little hard to read. But I'm confident taking the Cowboys -4. They have a high-powered offense, so this will depend on if Cooper is healthy. So again, pay attention to that. DeMarcus Lawrence is on IR, but we knew that was last week. So yeah, I'm going to be taking Dallas -4 here, and probably the over. Yeah, I'm fine with the over 51.5 points. That gives 27.75 to Dallas, 23.75 to the Eagles. These divisional matchups are almost always pretty good. They know each other well. This is going to be another, again, good game. Fantastic matchups this week. This is fun. So I think Dallas wins. I think they cover. And I'm going to be taking over 51.5. Let's see if the model agrees. The model says Cowboys to win. They're going to take the under. We got in at 52 for our line, so they expect 46 points. So model is taking the under, and they are taking Dallas to cover. So that'll do it. Again, thanks for keeping up with this. It's been really fun watching this model kind of perform. It's about 50-50 with well, I can give you an exact number here. So last I looked, it was at about 50-50 for win rate. Let's see here. NFL. Oh man, it makes a lot of bets. Yeah, so 46 wins, 48 losses, 2 pushes. So that's about a 50% hit rate. So, flip a coin, that's not that great. But the key thing here, and something that new bettors should know, we are following the model blindly on our Action Network. There's zero strategy applied. We're just going with whatever it says. Don't do that. Please do not do that. This is to guide your bets, and it's also kind of it is. It's an experiment on our side. We're trying to make a better model. This is our first season with the model. And even though it's at about 50% for a hit rate, it's losing on big money lines. So like if you're betting, the minus 500 favorites and those lose, that sucks. And you hear me say it every time I bring up these big money lines that I'm not taking them. The risk is not worth the reward. And because there's no strategy applied, we do 1-unit bets, and it's down 11.86 units, even though it's at about breaking even for the win rate. So that's why please have a strategy in mind when you bet. Do not just blindly follow us. Don't blindly follow anyone. And that goes, I'm not trying to get preachy. That goes for everything. Don't blindly follow things. Do research on your own. We're here for discussion and information. That's really what we're trying to provide. So please connect with us, talk with us about the model, talk with us about your fantasy lineups. We want to help you if we can. So the way you can do that is we are on Twitter at SWTN_podcast. We are on Instagram at Sleeping with the Numbers. YouTube, you can search for us at Sleeping with the Numbers. We're everywhere you can find a podcast. It's just Sleeping with the Numbers. We also have a website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com. We post all of our picks there, the results. I post the DFS lineups there. That's where you can find us if you want to connect, and please do. We want to reach out. We want to talk to people. It's all about discussion, and we think with discussion we can make better bets, and that's the whole point of this. We're trying to win money. So again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.